Hanif Adams, the football lover with a touch of Asia. Welcome to this conversation. How did you come to Zambia? Perhaps that would be the first question I want to know.
I think to correct you, I didn't come to Zambia. I was born here. I was born in Eastern Province in Chipata, and my parents came in the 1930s to settle here. So we are all Zambians by birth.
Tell me about this country. So this is the only place you can firmly call home.
That's right. I'm pure born and bred Zambian, and
Wow.
my heart is as Zambian as you are.
What brought the Adams family to Zambia from your recollections?
I think from what I know from when I've talked to my dad, whenever I've asked him, they just said no. Those days when it was British colonized, the British used to send, certain individuals to come to Africa to invest here, and most of them that time it was more like labor to come and work here. So they were picking certain quotas every year. So many people go to Africa from India like that. So I think my dad was one of them, was picked to come this side of Africa and make a living here. So
okay. Okay, that sounds like destiny brought you here. But let's talk about Hanif Adams and being born in Chipata. I think a good number of kilometers from the capital city, away from the copper belt. How did you get hooked on football?
I think I have to tell you, it's a long story. Well, first of all, maybe from my background when I was young, while we were in Chipata as well, we used to play a lot of football there at a social level. So every weekend in Chipata as well, we used to have a team called Chipata Hotspurs. And then that team was also basically composed of Zambians of Asian origins and one or two Zambians. And it was a very competitive league within Chipata. It was called the Chipata Amateur League. So when eventually I came to Lusaka for secondary school, I stopped playing where I was, and then I started playing here at school. Now it's called Kamala Secondary School, but those days it was called Prince Philip Secondary School. There was Asian, Coloreds, and a few Zambians that used to attend that school. It was a boarding school. And I continued played football there. Then when I completed my studies, Form 5, I went to England, to Scotland, to pursue aeronautical engineering. And that was in 1972. And then in 1977 is when I got back to Zambia after getting my license to work on aeroplanes and everything. So I joined, at that time, with the national airline Zambia Airways. And I worked for Zambia Airways starting from 1977 until the time they got liquidated. So while I was at Zambia Airways, I decided to continue playing football. And that's when we found that we had some Zambian of Asian origins here who also had an interest in football. So that's when we formed this team called IYO Dynamos. So that was in just around 79. We started playing in the Lusaka Amateur League. And when we started the league, we had all these Asian, IYO stand for Islamic Youth Organization. It was more like a community thing where we would go in the compounds and play football against the teams in the compounds, so that we could interact with the local Zambians and get to know each other and bring that friendly coexisting between us. So it was good while it lasted, because only problem was my fellow Muslim brothers, they eventually, started fading out one by one because time pursuing after 17 hours coming for training. Some of them wouldn't make it. And eventually, when I noticed the numbers going down, I had no option because I wanted to continue with the team in the league. And that's when I went to University of Zambia. At that time, University of Zambia had a very good soccer team. In fact, they had one of the best soccer teams in all the region of the universities that are within Central Africa. So I got most of the players, the good players from there to join me. And that's when the real Lusaka Dynamo started. And that was when we were in amateur league, in Lusaka Amateur League.
So I want to ask this. Well, in the First Republic, so to speak, Zambia was talking about one Zambia, one nation, and the country was trying to get to terms with the fact that we are people of varying ethnic diversities. Would you say that people like yourself, Zambians of Asian origin and Zambians who come from other places, so to speak, also needed to participate a little bit more in this so-called one Zambia, one nation? Because your story right there sounds a little bit separated from the others, seemingly, at the beginning.
No, I think if you say separated in what way, I mean,
To the extent that you start a team and it's yourself and other Zambians of Asian origin, and it wasn't with every other Zambian from each and every corner, seemingly. What was the motivation for the team to seemingly start like that?
Well, as I explained, it was more like, like, how could I say, community socializing, where because most of remember in the amateur league, most of the grounds are in the compounds. We had to go in the compounds to play. So you go to Chawama, you go to Kalingalinga, what's that one there, another one, this side by Makeni side, this side, Sisi, then this side Kaunda Square. So we had to, I've played on all those grounds. But
what was the average response? Here comes Hanif.
Yeah, no,
and his friends. And I'm sure you turn a few necks and say, okay.
No, it was a good experience. I mean, I think because of my interaction from those days, I think if I go to any compound, immediately those that can remember will always recognize me and tell me, hey, Mr. Hanif, everybody knows me. So it was a good way of, how can I put it? I mean, for me it was good that I made friends, a lot of friends like that. And I mean, it's also the people to realize that the color of the skin didn't matter. It was just we're all same, we're all brothers
But you actually know the stereotype is that at face value, when you see Zambians of Asian origin, or those that are differently colored than the average Zambian, you see bourgeoisies, you see people who are well-to-do that will not mix and mingle. Wow, you actually went to the compound.
Yes.
That sounded like humbling yourself.
Yeah, I mean, well, if I tell you, as I told you, when I grew up in Chipata, the only friends I had were indigenous Zambians. I played with them. So my childhood background was all indigenous Zambians. I grew up with them. I used to go with those catapults, even in the bush, to go hunting, So I had a very Zambian life from childhood. So, and it's not exactly in Chipata. My parents were not exactly in Chipata. My parents were 25 miles away from Chipata in the bush, where they had a little shop. And if you heard of a place called Kwamgubudu.
Oh.
Just before Lundazi. That's where I grew up. That's my childhood. Humble beginnings.
I'm just thinking, how much of the Zambian culture is rubbed off on you?
Well, I mean, if you talk of culture, I'm more Tumbuka than anything from Eastern Province. Or Chief Chanje, Chief Chanje's village. That's where I'm near from there.
So, I'm now thinking, under normal circumstances, at default, you're supposed to be a lover of cricket. At least that's where your father's heritage is coming from. You came here, football crazy country. Cricket is not anywhere near anything like serious business, but here we go. You found yourself loving football for what it is. Was football seemingly born in you? And was there any, when you talk about Zambians of Asian origin, you'd think that you people
cricket.
would gather up and start playing cricket.
Yeah, but you see, that's why where my interest in football came. I'll be honest. In school, I played all sports. I played cricket, I played football, I played basketball, I played tennis, and I did swimming. But when time passed on, like when I came to secondary school, cricket was there, all the sport was there. The only thing was that the reason I liked football, it was more of a contact sport, and I liked something that was more physical. Cricket is a bit passive, you know. You bat, you hit the ball, and you run. But I wanted something more competitive. So football was the thing that really got me to play and be competitive in it. So, and as I said, when the school football finished, and I continued. Even when I went to England, I used to play at the university where I was, but not on a professional level because I was a student. So I had to keep myself within my limits.
So, tell me this: you arrive in the United Kingdom, and then you're supposed to say you're from Zambia. How accepting was the society then in England at that time? And fresh from getting independence, and you're saying I'm coming from an African country that wrested power from you people. What were you greeted with?
Oh, in England, I think if you remember, during the 70s, England also, there was a lot of racism, and people who came from Africa, or people who came from Asia, whatever, you would have to go through very hard visa procedures just to get there. And even for me to go as a student, I had to go through quite a bit of hell trying to get a visa to go there. So at that time, England, United Kingdom, whatever you want to call it, they were not very welcoming to foreigners. They were very, as I said, they had these racist issues with them, where they always felt that the foreigners were coming in too many numbers, and they didn't want too many foreigners in their country. So obviously, when you show up there, at the beginning, they will, obviously they won't really welcome you. But I think once they get to know you, and when you're settled there, then they slowly start accepting you.
What was the real issue behind those ill feelings towards other people, in your view?
Well, I think, I don't know, maybe I feel that they felt that we are intruding on their way of culture and on their life, So I just feel that it's more like cultural clashes, because when they see people with different color and everything, they think now we are going to bring our culture into their culture. And
so what was the treatment of Hanif? Would you say it would have been different if, for example, you were black, you walked into that university, or because you were of Asian origin, the treatment was a bit different? Or was it anti anything that's not local?
No, I think at the university, no. I think because at the university it was a very mixed university. We had students from all over the world. So at the university we didn't have that much of a problem. But I'm talking about when you ventured out into the streets, or when you went out maybe some social places, that's when you notice that bit of racism. You could see that, oh, these people, they want to keep to themselves. They don't want to mingle. They don't want to, really know you, because, they feel that you're different from them. That's how it was.
There's still remnants of the racism vibe, and looking at the fact that you came from a football crazy country, and they're football crazy people as well. Up to this day, there's this feeling that we have not dealt with the racism issue.
Well, it's still there. I mean, you can see even just recently, not even a week ago, there was some again in the press in Italian football. And it's a shame, you know, because I don't understand how some people, because of the color of their skin, they think that they are superior than us, because they're not. In fact, from what I've seen, we people with a different complexion are more superior than them, you know, because they think that they're more in a developed country. They think that they're better than us. That's what I really think, because in terms of athletic values or whatever, they can't match up to us.
Tell me something. You belong to the Islamic faith, and it's something that may be a touchy subject. It's because Muslims have been perceived in a certain way. Some have labeled Muslims as people who are very violent. Now, I'm just looking at one, racism, two, you're Muslim. It was
No,
a
but you
very
see-
bad cocktail, it seems.
Yeah, but you see, during that period, terrorism and all that was non-existent, if you remember. This thing only started about 10 years ago or sometime around that time, when Bin Laden and everything came into the picture. But during those days, no, Islam was never an issue. There was no problem at all. The issue that time was mostly about the color of your skin. There was nothing to do with the religious faith or whatever. The Islamic thing only started recently, as I said, when this Al-Qaeda and them started emerging. That's when all these problems started.
Educate me. The majority of people you've grown up with, I'm sure, belong to the Christian faith.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that Islam, the religion that you follow, has been misunderstood, therefore?
Definitely it has been, because Islam is a very peaceful religion. In fact, the word Islam, it means peace, you know. It's a religion of peace. There's no way Islam allows violence or even killing of people. It is even forbidden to kill somebody in Islam. I mean, in fact, in the Quran it's even quoted that the person who kills another human being, according to God, the person goes straight to hell, because there is no excuse for killing another human being. So all these things you've heard of recently, where people say they're doing it in the name of Islam, they're just a bunch of a few clique that have trying to twist the religion of Islam. Islam is not a violent religion. It's a very peaceful religion.
I understand there's a phenomenon called a jihad, a holy war, and I've heard that once you participate in that holy war, you go straight to heaven, and there are a lot of good gifts that you receive from the Creator.
Yeah, but you see, the holy war is a holy war. We're talking about holy wars in the days of the Prophet, when they were fighting the holy wars against. Remember, I mean, if you've done your history, the Crusaders were the Christians, and they used to have those wars when they were trying to take over the territories like Turkey and what's this other one, Constantine, those days. So those were the holy wars, and that time, if you're martyred in the war, the belief is that if you died in the cause of the religion, then you are granted heaven. But it's not a holy war where you go blowing up people in the modern world. That's not a holy war. That's terrorist, and that is not allowed in Islam.
It must be tough for people to feel comfortable and for you to tell them that I'm Muslim, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, as I said, you see, when you get to circles abroad, not everybody, as you said, thinks like that. A lot of people also who are educated and everything, they know that Islam is a very peaceful religion. So they know that even tackling this problem of terrorists, it's certain individuals who are responsible for it, not the whole faith of Islam. No.
Tell me something. So 1979, let's go back to the year 1979. So the Lusaka Dynamo's brainchild was born. and you went and worked with people like Patrick Kangwa. I'm just thinking, what was your objective for you to start? You never wanted to give up, but what did you want to achieve at the same time?
Well, if I really tell you my real ambition, when I started the team, as I said to you earlier on, I used to play. I used to play as a midfielder, then eventually, as I got older, I started playing as a centre back, and I used to centre back with Patrick Kangwa. And I wanted to I had an ambition to say, no, since now I've started, I want to prove to everybody that you can start from an amateur league and reach Premier. And which I had told everybody that who knew that I was in football. I used to tell everybody, you'll see one day I'm going to be in Premier, one day I'm going to be in Premier. And people didn't take me seriously, they thought, he's just, he'll never make it. So it was a challenge for me. So when I got this bunch of players from Kent University, and when I realized how good they were, and I knew that this challenge, I'm going to meet it, because each and every player that was there had the brains to play football, because they're all very intellectual. And when I noticed that this intelligence on the play comes from also from being educated, the team was in a completely different mark from all the other teams we played. I mean, we were just too good for the amateur league. And that's when we decided, that's when I brought this name, the elite. The elite came from, because all the players were graduates, were university students.
So tell me something. So at that time, your belief and conviction was driven by the fact that, look, we are graduates, yourself included, and would think better than, or was it you were more exposed? When you look back in hindsight, maybe you were more exposed thanks to privilege and having traveled a bit. Maybe that's where it came from.
Well, it could have been, but as I said, when I came here, when I started the team, the main thing was we just wanted to play. I mean, we are all footballers. We are enjoying the game at the weekends. But then when the time came, like every year getting promoted. Then when we came into Fast 3, that's when I said, no, I think let me go full way. And I was still playing in Fast 3. I played in Fast 2, Fast 1. The only year I stopped playing is when the year we got promoted to Premier League. I was 39 years old. And I said, no, I can't risk my injuries at this age now, because if I get injured, it'll take long to heal. So that's when we reached the first year in Premier, is the time I hang my boots.
Tell me, your brainchild, how did you manage, number one? I want to ask, you balancing work and your football project.
Mm-hmm. Well,
how easy or difficult was it?
Well, it wasn't difficult, because we used to train in the evenings at 17. So even the students from Munza, we used to meet after 17 hours. So I used to work from 8 to 16. So by the time I knocked off from work, I had enough time to come for training. And that's how I managed my training program. So every day we had training from 17, depending on the light, 18 or up to 18:30, late like that. So we trained for 1.5 hours. And we used to train from Monday to Friday. Saturday we should have a league game. And that's how we managed all those years, until the time we got into Premier. That's the year when we now, realized that I realized now football is now competitive, and I need to work on a plan where how I'm going to sustain myself. And that's when I got this good idea, which nobody had those days, where I developed a nursery of youngsters, of under 17 players, under 16, under 15, put them together and then make them join an amateur league for them to play, so that's where I would scout my talent for the main team. And that's how Lusaka Dynamos, the foundation is built on, is developing players that will play for the future, and also for the future bring income to the club.
Was it partly an economic decision? Because I'm made to understand your brainchild, and therefore you needed to take care of this baby and pay for it.
That's right.
And you paid every single year, every single season that you participated, You had to put the money where your mouth is.
That's right. And
Must have been a rich man.
well, I think it's about managing, not about being rich. That's why I said.
Tell me about managing.
Yeah, you see, in football, as I said, the philosophy of Dynamos is to produce players. That was our key number one objective. So every year, while the main team is playing, every year I had 4 or 5 players coming in to the main squad. And those 5 players, when they're exposed, you find that within 1 year, 2 years, they already made a grade where every club, that time, you know, these big clubs like Nkana, Power, Zanaco had just joined that time. Zanaco actually found us in Division 2 when they joined us. Zanaco had actually bought off a team in Division 2 to get the spot. They didn't start from the amateur ranks. So anyway, so all these big clubs will come at the beginning of the season. No, that player that we saw, we want that player, we want that player. So when these opportunities came, I had to release some of the players because I knew that this is the way I was going to survive. Get the income from those players, whatever we sell them for, use that same money to go into the football club, and then it will pay the team for the following season.
You're a businessman, so I'm sure it made a lot of business sense.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, football is expensive. Football is not cheap, especially.
But it still made business sense.
Yeah, it made business sense. That's why
What's
I said.
your secret, Mr. Adams?
Yeah, that's why I said you have to plan it in such a way that the key is your nursery, the football, the team, the young players that you are developing have to be quality material, and you have to identify them from the time they're young. So if I had the knack for it to identify good players, and I think that's why I was lucky. So I was very lucky that I mean, I've got multiple names that I've produced. Some even went to Europe, and whatever benefits that we enjoyed from that, it benefited the club because I was able to survive year after year. I didn't have to really dig deep into my pocket to look for money to keep the club, the team going.
But the cost structure, I'm just thinking, traveling, probably paying players, and other costs, say renting infrastructure, in order to manage them. You make it sound like child's play. I'm not convinced.
No. I think you're looking at the modern era now where football is even more expensive because now everything is on contracts, everything is on salaries. It's like almost like running a company. But those days, we didn't have that. We just...
What was your cost structure? And on when you call it managing, I'm curious to find out, how did you manage? I'm thinking you're harboring players that want to go back home with a loaf of bread or something at least. How did we make money? More so that football was pretty much a corporate social responsibility undertaking. How did you make your money?
I think in football you don't make money. Football you spend. And whatever benefits we got from selling of players, whether they went abroad or whatever income we got out of that, it always was pumped back into the football team so that it would manage the costs during the following season or whatever. And that's how we managed to survive. And those days, again, I must clarify for you, we didn't pay big money for winning a game. People played football with the heart because they wanted to be something. Like the young players we had, they wanted to prove a point that they are good enough to go abroad because what they had was the intention that if I play for Dynamos, if I'm good, I'll be taken to Europe. And all the young players had that ambition. So I'll give you examples of this is our coach now, Ian, Perry Mutapa, late Lloyd Mumba, Milton Tembo, all those, Shashi Chalwe, I mean, Hijan Himonde,
William
Joe. I mean, I got plenty I can talk about. All of them, they were the backbone of our foundation because without those players and whatever future they had, a brilliant future wherever they went, but whatever we got out of them, it helped us to maintain the club, and that's why we are here today.
So how did it so happen that you consistently found a way of getting them young, number one, but number two, you also knew that these boys have got a future and I am going to reap a dividend going forward. Is it that easy?
No, it's not easy. You see, when they're young, you're looking at them as an investment. You're making them to a certain stage where you're also empowering them when they become professionals or whatever. You've set the future for them. So whatever they've done when they were young, we are the ones who have developed them. And then whatever they achieve after that, when they make the grade, whatever we get out of our dividends or whatever is well and good for the team, but whatever they're going to get out of it will be for the rest of their life and for their future. So at the end of the day, they have benefited more because, you know, some of them, I even know they've grown old now, but they're still in Europe. They don't want to come back here.
So it's you built careers.
Yes, I've developed, I mean...
Many careers, livelihoods.
Yes.
And some are big boys in this country.
That's right.
What was the benefit for Hanif?
Well, for
really
me...
and truly.
For me, the benefit is, I think, how can I say it?
You spend time and money on this thing called football. Now I'm just thinking, and you're a businessman. And businessmen don't flirt in areas where there's no profit making.
Well, let me be honest. It's good to see people who had nothing and today they have something, and because of what I've put them on a platform where they've achieved something, and it makes me proud. There's nothing for me to benefit, but at least I feel good that, oh, look at that guy, he's something today, and it's because I made him to this. That's all. That's the good feeling you get in your heart. It's nothing to do with money value or whatever value. It's what you call personal satisfaction. That those people who are whatever they are today is because I did it for them.
Your family, didn't have any qualms about football, and let's put it this way, there are times where you'd spend and the payback would take time because you wouldn't make a player in one season and sell them off. No, so you'd have them for a couple of years.
Yes.
How do you justify the cost to your family that, look, we're not going to have an extra chicken in this house because...
No, but you see, when I did all this...
Because I love football.
Yeah, but you see, when I did all this, it was nothing to do with my family. I was an individual at my own capacity doing it. So whatever little money I had and everything, I sacrificed everything. It was nothing to do. I didn't go to my father, or I didn't go to my uncles or whatever to get support that, oh, I need money, I'm starting a football team or whatever. It just, I told you, those days football was for love. You played for the love of soccer. You didn't love, there was no thing of playing for the love of money.
You work for a quasi-government institution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there was enough money to spare for football.
When that time?
Yeah.
Well, as I say, football was not expensive then. All you needed was 20 players or 10 players.
And what would be the spend? Say, the average week in terms of spend back in the day?
Those days I can't even recall because the kwacha was so meaningful that time. I mean, one kwacha meant a lot. I can't even say, I mean...
What would you need to spend on?
Well, we only spend money on what you call... travel, to get a small, I mean, those days we had 4 or 5 cars. Everybody used to jump in the car and then go to the venue where we're playing. And then we just needed football jerseys and halftime a crate of drinks. And that's about it. And when the game finished, we all go home. And that was it. We didn't have to start paying winning bonuses. There was no such thing. People just played to football and they wanted to win.
When did you discover that this football thing could actually be a business? It pay you handsomely.
When I got into Premier League is when I decided, not that I wanted to make money out of football, but I had to, as I said, strategize that now I'm in a Premier League, it's going to cost me a bit more money. So what do I do? How do I now make myself, sustainable without actually digging too deep into my pocket where I find myself under pressure. So that's when developed this idea that let's have a nursery where we produce players, good players, quality players, and then they come to the main team, and 1 or 2 years they go. Whoever gives a good offer, let them go. And that's what I did, and I think that philosophy paid off.
I hear there was a time when you could just wake up and hear that a player has moved in the dark of night.
Yes, it used
and
to.
Is at big club XYZ.
Yeah, it used to happen.
Were you a victim of such mechanics?
Well, I mean, I got used to it because, when players who are with me were playing for almost next to nothing where money was concerned, and then when these guys who come and grab them at night, pay them, offer them, oh, we'll give you this every month. And those days even somebody offered you 1,000 kwacha. It was a lot of money. And they'll say, oh, is it going to give me 1,000 kwacha? I'm going. And you just hear 2 days later, somebody calls you, oh, we want your player, can we talk? And then that was it. And then the player's already made up his mind. We have no choice and negotiate and whatever.
Were players ever stolen from you?
No, because
for me to be blunt like that.
No, they could steal in the sense that they've taken away without my consent, but then eventually they would have to come back to us because they were registered with us. So there's no way you can take somebody who's registered with us at first and then claim that he's your player. You can't, because they have to have a transfer certificate and everything. So obviously they would have come back to you and ask you, okay, let's negotiate. How much can you?
But I'm sure you've seen it. Some people over the years complained and cried that our players were stolen in the dark of night.
No.
And we seemingly did not get anything.
No. If it happens like that, means that the player was not registered. With me, what I did was every player, whether they were my amateur, they were in the nursery or the main team, they're all registered. I used to put them all on the registration at first, so they're on my retention list, that these are registered with Dynamo. So once they're registered, nobody can come and claim that, no, this is my player, because it will show at the first records that this is a Dynamo's player.
How did you manage the coaches in this country?
Mm-hmm.
Because you needed to play owner and play that oversight role. And there's this old age complaint. Zambian coaches don't know how to read the game, don't know how to do this, don't know how to do this. Is that a fair thing to say about the coaching in this country? Or what's the blunt truth about it?
I don't think they don't. It's nothing that they don't know how to read the game. Whatever. What I've experienced with coaches here is that there's this what I call the old coaches, and then there's a new phase of coaches. Now the old generation of coaches, what my experience from what I've experienced all these years in football, they have this too much superstitious belief of things when they're actually coaches. So you find that instead of concentrating with his abilities as a coach, he's more worried about his superstitious belief that if he did this, whatever magic that works for him, he's going to win his game. So that's where I've noticed that the problems with Zambian coaching is, especially in our league, in the Premier League. But then the new coaches that are there, who have grown up with less of the superstition belief, I think they are the ones who are becoming better coaches. And
you're an African like me. I so beg to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
The Tumbuka in you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tell me that you don't believe in Juju.
No.
Or you don't believe it works, at least.
I don't believe it works either. It's all psychological. It's so
the little boy in you,
mm-hmm.
from Chipata,
yeah.
all the way to Lusaka, went to the United Kingdom and back, and then you don't believe that Africans use Juju?
No, they can use, but you see, as I said, it's psychological. Everything to do with magic is psychological. If you believe in it and it works, if you don't believe it doesn't.
Did you ever find yourself in your playing career?
Oh yes, issues.
In that situation?
Yes, when you used to go to some of the league games, you find that they do some funny rituals by the goalpost, this, that, and I just used to watch and laugh because I used to say, no matter what you do here, today you're going to lose. And they used to lose. You know, I mean, you find the opposite team, they're busy sprinkling water by the goalpost, I don't know, whatever magic.
They wouldn't accuse you of being a serious voodoo artist.
No, no. In fact, we used to we used to encounter those scenes those days, and I used to laugh about it because I used to even tell them before the game started, I said, no matter what you do here, we're going to beat you, and we used to beat them.
What was the secret?
No, because it's
because how do you manage the so-called, or what did you have to go through when you say the older generation of coaches believed in juju, and because you've been through the mill from 1979, I'm sure you needed to wait for generations to turn and change. Was it a wait and see? Is it something that you really needed to fight?
No, like as I said just now, you find that the new coaches, the new generation, like I'll give you an example. My former players, Ian, Perry Mutapa, they're all coaches now. And you can see their way of coaching is just believing in what you teach your players and how to play. They're not looking for a third force or a second force from somewhere, superstition to add value to the team. They don't believe in that. So you can see that, and they're doing well as coaches, you know.
But they say superstition also comes under the veil of religion, whether it's Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, or any other thing. Mm-hmm. It does come with that. Where is your faith?
No. I think there I'll contradict with you. In Islam, we don't believe in what you call this where you say you can use charms or whatever. It only works if you believe in it. It doesn't work if you don't. In Islam, we don't believe in these things.
So what was your average encounter? Was it something that frustrated you very much, that I'm working with people who actually do not want to just put in the shift 100%? They're believing in a third force, which is plain ridiculous by my standards.
Well, as I said from the beginning, when I had coaches who did such things, I always used to, try and talk to them and said, look, because you see, when you do such use of whatever you believe in it, it also affects the players, because the players also start believing in it. And now the player, you find that instead of him playing to his ability and his talent, he's expecting that this thing that the coach has told him is going to work. And you find that at the end of the day, the player, instead of becoming a good player, you find that he's now relying on something that the coach has told him, and he doesn't develop to the fullest, and it affects the player.
How do you manage that?
Well, I had to eventually, the coaches that I worked with, I had to eventually tell them that if you have come here with these ideas, it's better you pack up and go, because this is not what we want here to South Animals.
Why didn't Hanif Adams, I don't know, did you really coach your own team? You've always had people
I've always
to do the work for you?
Yes, I've always had all those previous years when I stopped playing, I was always on the technical bench. I never actually wanted to be a coach as such, but with all my experience in football, I've always assisted the coaches with my technical ability. So even now, as it stands today, I am still their technical advisor, although the coaches are there. But whatever we discuss technically, everything comes with me and what we discuss together. So on technical wise, I'm still there to support them.
You're the hidden hand.
Well, it's good to have, what you say, the experience talks for itself.
No, I'm just thinking, because I'm sure you could have worked with some people who said, look, we're not doing well because I'm technical advisor. How would you fire a coach for failure to perform when you were the technical advisor?
Well, you see, the technical advisor doesn't get involved in what they do while the actual game is going on and everything. Now, you see, a technical advisor can only tell you, like the last game I played, I would tell them, or I call them, I said, you guys, where you did this was wrong. I think this is what you could have done. You could have maybe won the game, or you could have done this or this substitution. That's why I come in. But then, if they during the course of the game, anything, whatever they do is they are on their own. So they have to learn. They have to learn. Now, if they are going to learn, they're going to learn from their mistakes. And then if you tell them that these are your mistakes, and if they don't want to learn from there, then they're on their own. And that's when you find that if they're not listening, that's when they get fired.
But out of curiosity, then someone asked the question, he seated on the bench. Does it mean that you'd sit on the bench and keep quiet?
No.
What would be your input at halftime? During the game?
I think if you're quoting me from the past when I used to sit on the bench, yes, that time I never fired any coach. All my coaches graduated and they left for greener pastures. Just like how the players used to get poached at night. My coaches were getting poached at night as well. You find the next day here my coach has gone to another big team because he's done so well at Lusaka Dynamos.
So it's also about development of coaches,
so,
not only the players.
Yes, so even the coaches that left Lusaka Dynamos, I'd never fired a coach all those years. Not even one coach was fired. Every coach left us for greener pastures. Lusaka Dynamos was a stepping stone for each and every coach that wanted to make to the big time. So all the coaches got developed at Lusaka Dynamos as well.
A lot of people would want to say, look, Hanif is speaking very well about himself. Again, why didn't Hanif really want to coach? You seem to be very passionate about the technical side of the game.
I didn't want to coach because, how can I put it? Okay, just to go for a coaching course, time away from, okay, I'm quite committed, with my family and everything, staying away, going away from home and going on coaching course. I didn't have time for all that. But if I really wanted, I could have done it. I would have gone for. I could have even by now had an A license, even FIFA, UEFA license. I could have got it. I had the capacity to do it, but I didn't want to do it. What I decided to do is that use my experience, whatever I've done throughout the years. I don't even need a coaching license because just the experience of football, which is in me, is enough to even, help the young coaches to learn.
So, what is the reality about developing? Now you've told me about a different side, the players and the coaches. We've heard of people talking about the need for academies, the need to start from the grassroots. And here's Hanif quietly doing it since 1979. What are some of the theories that make you weak in the knees when you hear people talking about developing? What are the jokes? What are the myths?
Well, developing, you see, when you it's all to do with what your foundation is. If your foundation is good, and Lusaka Dynamos, as I said, from the time we started, the foundation has always been good because whenever coaches came here, they found it easy to work with me because I was more of a football person. I was not that boss who didn't understand football. I'll give you good examples. The clubs, even now at present, they have got football administrators in those clubs. They have never even played football in their life, but they want to be on the on the committee or whatever. But all because either they want to channel some money for themselves, but it's not there because of football. So at Dynamos, everybody who comes here, they know that they're dealing with a person who understands football. So everything we've done here, whether it's a coach or a player, and even people like administrative wise who have come to join, like, oh, I'm interested, I want to become can I come and help you or whatever, and I take them in as maybe secretary or whatever. They've all learned from Lusaka Dynamos.
So what was your criteria for choosing who to work with?
Criteria was mostly based on their interest in football, and some of them I had seen, throughout the years, you meet people and this guy's in football, this guy's in football, and I think that's how you identify people that these are football related people, and then that's how you bring them into your camp.
Not capitalist.
No.
Never.
No. It's always been selecting people that you know that they've got the interest of heart at football. Those are the guys I usually got involved with.
Tell me something. So you were also a victim of what many Zambians went through. Quasi-government institution you're working for goes under. I want to suspect you could have been retrenched.
Well,
What was the biggest lesson? Life after
Zambia Airways.
Zambia Airways.
Well, I think on my side I was lucky. When I knew that Zambia Airways was going to be liquidated, you know.
How did you know, out of curiosity?
No,
we
were told.
Did you see it coming? Or?
We were told that within this period, we are all going to be told to will be retrenched. I mean, because the company, I mean, were closing up. But then you see, before that, a few years before Zambia Airways got liquidated, I had started, Lusaka at that time, we had lacked entertainment in this country. So Lusaka, there were no nice spots to go out in the evenings where people could, socialize and everything. So that's when this thing came of, let me start a disco as well. Maybe it will help my football team as well. And that's when I ended up having a mobile disco. Those days there were no nightclubs. So I got since I was working at Zambia, it was very easy to access things from UK because I could get a 10% ticket fly on a Wednesday night flight and come back Friday morning, leaving Thursday, just go to London for one day, buy this, buy that, come back. And those days music, we used to have those 12-inch records. So I used to even go on one day flight, come back the next morning, come back Friday evening, you've got the best music in town because all the latest records are with you. And then I started this thing, the disco.
You'd actually DJ yourself?
Yes.
DJ Hanif?
It was called...
what was the real nickname?
I was called Pepe, Emperor Pepe. Emperor Pepe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I must admit, this is the second time I'm hearing that name.
Okay.
And I heard it from...
Other people.
I'll tell you. I heard it from Smarter.
Okay.
Hanif Adams, you're a risk taker. I was having a conversation with Smarter.
Uh-huh.
You know his love with politics. Yeah. But you still invited him to come and work with you at Lusaka Dynamos.
Yes. No, we are friends. We were very good friends.
He's a politician, Hanif.
Yeah, he's a politician, but I mean, he's got a love of football a lot. And his passion for football is I can't even describe. He loves football.
But his passion for politics as well.
Well, for me, politics and football don't mix. So if somebody comes for football, it's basically football. We don't talk politics. And whenever Simata was with me, we only talked football. We never talked politics.
So it was never a risk?
No, never.
Even when you called him to a position of leadership at Lusaka Dynamos, and to his own admittance, the long arm of the state was hunting him down, and there's Hanif Adams giving him refuge.
No, as I said, for me, I mean, I look at football as a sport. So whatever your issues are out of football, that's nothing to do with me.
What made him worth the risk?
Well, because he has the football brain. I mean, he's very good at organizing. He's very good at structuring things within the football club. So he had the knowledge for that, and I didn't think even for a moment that I should be thinking about politics. Politics doesn't come when it comes to sport. What you do is like me. I would not be talking about politics if I'm running a sport. It's two totally different things. Politics and football politics and sport don't mix. It's totally different things.
Emperor Pepe, tell me, how did you manage to pull it off culturally? From a distance, it seems Muslims would never support disco.
No, they don't. I mean...
How?
Yeah, but as I explained to you, it was not, how can I say it? It was not something to benefit me. It was meant to benefit the football team. I explained to you that I had to think of another way of how I was going to continue. Remember, the airline was going to become liquidated, and I had to think quick. I said, besides whatever players I'm going to produce and everything, if I'm going to go in the Premier League, I need to have a second backup. And I said the only thing I could think of that time, because I noticed Lusaka was scarce with entertainment, and I said, no, let me go into this field of entertainment. I think if I'm successful, this will really support the football team.
How did you go back to the mosque?
No, but you see,
and I'm sure your Muslim brothers would hit each other and say, Emperor Pepe is in the building.
Yeah, but you see, they didn't look at me that way, because a lot of people knew why I was doing it. It wasn't to benefit me, it was to benefit, it was more for social purposes.
Would it be hard to explain that position to a Muslim?
Well, you must understand, in Islam, it's not like it's forbidden. It's not like it's completely forbidden, you can't do it. It's just that they said the mode of business that you're doing it, it's not something very approved, although you could do it and make money, but it's not something that people will say that it's a good way of making money.
Quran misunderstood?
No.
Or people misunderstood?
People have different beliefs in it. Some people say it's fine, as long as you're making money, you're using it for something else, it's fine. But where in Islam, where it objects is that if you're going to sell alcohol and all that, that's where the problem comes. Because in Islam, we don't consume alcohol. We don't drink alcohol. So you are not allowed to be selling alcohol in your business as well, because it's not permitted. So if you sell alcohol and you're going to earn that money, then that money is not going to benefit you in any way. I mean, that's what we believe in.
How? So you opened a night spot, a disco?
Eventually, yes. Because when I...
Who sold the alcohol?
Well, the nightclub did. It's not on me. The nightclub did, and it was Lusaka Dynamo was benefiting from that. It was not my personal pocket. So all the years, if people thought that I was the one getting rich or...
Did you feel misunderstood about?
Well, I think most
about this. How do you explain that to Muslim?
No,
your Muslim brothers know Emperor Pepe, one.
Yeah,
two, alcohol at that spot, and he's the boss.
Yeah, but as I explained to you, most people knew that I was channeling all this towards football. So a lot of people got used to it. They didn't really mind in the end. They all knew that I was doing this because they were not going to give me money, donations to run the team. So they knew that I had to look for a way where I could find a way of sponsoring the team, and that was the best way I could do it. So in the end, they got used to it because they knew that he's doing it for the football team, and it was fine with everybody.
Did you lose some friends?
Pardon?
Did you lose some friends because of that position?
No. I never lost anybody. In fact, everybody who are close to me was just as close. They all knew. I mean, you see, when you're doing it for a purpose to support something, and that purpose was for football and nothing to do with my own personal pocket, then they were fine with it. The only thing they didn't want me to do was use that money for enriching myself, which was not going to be right, because in Islam we're not supposed to use money from benefits of alcohol or even from disco to enrich yourself. That's not allowed.
Wow. I must say that I want to believe that people could have judged you. Even non-Muslims could have said, here he goes saying, I'm a devout Muslim and I follow the Quran to the letter, and here he is doing this.
No, that was not the case in my case, because as I said, a lot of people understood why I was doing it. It wasn't something that I just woke up one day and said, oh, let me do this because I want to get rich. No, it was mostly to support the faith. That's why I managed all these years. When people used to wonder, how the hell is he managing? Is because the time I had the nightclub, or the nightclubs, that a few clubs throughout the times I can remember that I had opened on different years, and that really benefited the team, and that's why I managed to survive up to now.
It took a lot of sacrifice then
Yeah, it
to
did.
keep Lusaka Dynamos afloat. And let's talk about your life after being retrenched.
Mhm.
So you needed to support that, but how did you support you? Because you said the discos were for the football team. What about Hanif Adams?
Well,
as an individual?
I supported myself. I have other investments which I depended on. So I really didn't need the disco to support me. I have my few properties that which I get enough income to. I'm happy with. So I didn't really have to stretch myself to depend on disco or whatever. Disco was just, as I said, was a more of a social project. It was mostly developed for supporting the football team, because we had to think of something when we reached that stage with the Premier League, that we needed something to cushion ourselves.
I'm just thinking that so far the conversation we've had is that it looks to be a beautiful marriage. Hanif Adams, football, retrenched, discos on the cards, and it's a gravy train. Was there anything during your time in football that made you feel like this is the end, I can't continue anymore? Were there those tipping points?
Yes, there was times when I almost like say, hey, you know, I think, why am I stressing? I can't think I can continue again, especially personally at my own capacity, doing it personally. And I think the time when, what was it, after we closed this club, what was it, in North Mead, Zenon, when that closed, I had to think of now looking for people who could partner. And I think that's when I got some people interested who have become like shareholders, and that's how we managed to continue. So I didn't have to really depend on myself to just support the team myself.
The team during your time, in under a decade, went up, won promotion, tasted victory and the joy that comes with it. But you also tasted the pain of being relegated.
Yes, football is, how can you say, it's a sport of joy and sometimes sadness as well. And I'll be honest, when we get relegated, it wasn't because we played badly, it was because the same philosophy I kept telling you about, that we had to sell players every season, and we didn't have a consistent team every season, because every season we lost 4 or 5 players because of revenue. And every time that happened, you find that the following year when we're in Premier League, you find that we've lost 6 players, and there are others that were fused in from the nursery are still a bit raw, and they need another time to develop to get to that stage of Premier League. So what happens? We get demoted, we come back to Division 1, and the same players now that had joined us have developed in Division 1, get promoted, they're back in Premier. Back in Premier, they're shining those same new players. Guess what happens? The same season, they're snatched, gone to other clubs. And we have to bring again new players to play in the Premier, we get demoted.
Tell me something. We like to talk about the ZCCM era because of the benefits that it brought, especially to our football. And I'm trying to pick from your story that you seemingly was not a victim at personal level about the structure adjustment program, being retrenched, business not going bad. You always thought of something. Did you sometimes envy and said, look, if only I had the resources that that big team that is being sponsored by the mine, for example, guaranteed sponsorship from the get-go, where have we misunderstood football management? Or have we?
Well, I think football management, the big companies, as you say, they have had the money and resources even to have the best teams in Africa. But for me personally, where they have lacked all these big companies, parastatals who are sponsoring the clubs, is, as I said, they've lacked in the personal capacity where they've had inexperienced administrators in their system. I think, as I highlighted earlier, I think most of these people who are with these big organizations, most of them haven't even been in football, but you find they're holding positions in football administration, and that's where they've lacked. That's why we've not, only of late, we've had teams like Zesco and Zanaco who have like come up a bit because they've changed their structures and everything, and they've become more professional in football, in bringing football administrated people inside.
How did football become prey to incompetence finding home in football?
Finding what?
Home. Well, how did they find themselves in football? And they spent a lot of time with their ignorance.
Yeah, but as I said, it's
What
all,
has saved them from where you stand?
what has saved them, I think, football. I mean, in other companies, I don't know how they work or what their structures are like. But if they are working in parastatal like organizations and they're sponsoring the team, then obviously some of them will make it their home, because there's nobody who's going to, if they're the bosses there, who's going to chase them? Nobody. They're the ones who are managing and who are running and who are calling the shots. So there's no way they're going to, they can misuse the money, they can do whatever they want, and at the end of the day, they'll still be there.
But what's the effect on the football? If you bring somebody that's not being involved in football, and perhaps it's a story of Zambian football, up to now, I'm sure you've been part of the many generations of Zambians that have dreamt of taking Zambia to the World Cup. And until before 2012, winning the Africa Cup itself. What has been the greatest spoiler in your view? What has cost our football the much success that I think we so rightly think we deserve?
Well, my personal opinion, I think, is that where we have lacked in football development when it comes to the international stage, we seem to have this tendency of bringing the players who are not good enough, because you want to use names rather than quality. And every time, if you notice, when Zambia is playing, suddenly you find 5 or 6 names that maybe they had gone abroad, but then when they've been abroad, they've not been playing active football. It's just a name you're agreeing because he was with so and such a club at such and such a place in Europe or whatever, and he's called here to play one crucial game, and you find that he has not even been active where he was, but he's taking the position of a player who could have been a local player who was good enough to fit that position, but because of this team selection they do, and it affects the whole performance of the whole game, because you have not put the players who deserve to play those particular games.
Favoritism.
Yes.
That sounds like what you are describing.
Yes, not favoritism, but for me, what I call it, using names to play names to play for Zambia. You don't do that. You pick a team on merit, whether even if a player is under 23 or under 20. If he's played at national level, and if he's good enough, he should be playing in the in the senior team as well.
Is there a common bias in our football regards who gets to play, for instance, for the national teams over the years, from your analysis?
Well, as I say, I don't know you see, when you have the national team coach, how they select the team. I mean, as far as has got a technical committee, the technical committee is supposed to also help the coaches identify which players should be selected. Maybe they make a list of 30 players. Out of that 30, they'll select maybe the best 20 or whatever for the particular tournament. But unfortunately, when these people make the final call out, you find on paper, when you see the team, I sometimes get disappointed, because we're not following what the rest of Africa has done who have succeeded. Like, I'll give you a good example of Nigeria, Ghana, where this example, if Nigeria won the under-20 World Cup, what they did the following year, after when they had gone, all those were no more under-20, they made the team now to go to under-23. They also won honors in that division. Then when the under 23, they graduated from there, they went to the senior team. Even in senior team, they won the Africa Cup, everything. So why can't we do the same? Why is it that the under 20 we had that won the Africa Cup here, why is it that same team not playing the next level? Or why is that team not playing as a senior team? We don't want to do that, but when the senior team comes, we start calling all these players who have even passed their time to come and play. You're not going to achieve success.
Where is the problem? I want to think, from where I stand, that the gatekeepers ultimately are the administrators, like yourself. What is a tried and tested model that can prevent us from going up and down? I look at some of your boys in 2007 at the Canada World Cup. And then the next time Zambia qualifies at the same age group level is in 2017. Mm-hmm. Exactly 10 years later. Yeah. Before then, 1999.
Yeah.
Where are we missing?
Well, as I said, our program for the youth, we are not keeping, how can I say, when you graduate from one age to another age, we are not keeping the same players to play. That's where the problem is. I mean, for me, if you win.
But what do we do, Mr. Adams, when these players are not playing well? Some of them, we are told, before you know it, he's a taxi driver or his wife and 4 kids are keeping him busy. And this was a guy we were seeing just the other year shining at under 17 or under 20.
I think where the problem is, again, with players, from my experience from managing from those days, if you remember when Lusaka Dynamos, where we got the name Elite, not just because of campus players, but even when I had like all these Perry Mutapas, Ian Bakala, all those, what we did was we made them play football and we sent them to school. They are doing both schooling. They used to go to Chongwe Secondary School. We had arranged 10 players used to go to Chongwe. And we had another few going at Libala. So we paid for the fees, and at the same time they played football. And the difference is that when such players played football, and then when they came on the pitch, you could see the difference of understanding the game, and even understanding even after they finished playing football, when they went home, what they had to do. And that's what you're asking me, what we are lacking. That's what we are lacking. The players we have nowadays, most of them, they have not even reached grade 7. Some of them, they've got the talent, but academic side they are down.
They are hard to teach.
Yeah. So what happens now? All those things come in. Discipline, everything fits in together. So if you haven't been to school and if you had this other type of life, social life, where you find that after you get a winning bonus, all you go straight to the pub, 10 crates, you're sitting there with your friends. You want the next Africa Cup, you won't be in the lineup because you've already finished yourself. And that's what happened to some of the players, what we are talking about. That some of them, there's no continuity. When a bunch of players who have succeeded, like now Kosafa under 20, that won. Let's see next year how many of them from there will reach another stage. Maybe some of them might not even be there because already they've lost on the social side, they've gone astray. That's what the problem is.
Who should help to control these boys and girls?
I think what I'm suggesting is that most of these people who have got most of these teams, like whoever the clubs that they belong to, the clubs should at least find a bit. I mean, they have the money, most of them. In putting them in school doesn't cost much. Put them in school. Let them be more educated. It will help them even when they don't have a football career. At least they have something to lean on. At least he's got the education. That's what we are lacking here.
Hypothetical situation. If, for argument's sake, if I gave Hanif Adams a project like, say, Kana, where he doesn't need to look for the money, everything is bankrolled by a big sponsor conglomerate, and even looking at the case of teams like Zambia Football Club that went down because the sponsor pulled out the plug, What kind of dreams would you have for such a project?
You mean to?
If we just called you as somebody just to manage a big club that has got steady sponsorship, you know, the way we've had the Nkanas, the Power Dynamos, and all these teams that have got consistent support, doesn't need to look for money. If they have a youth system, they have it, and they do not even need to look for anything. What kind of dream would you have for such a project?
Oh, I think I would win the league every year. I would. I think I would not be short of anything. I think I would have the best team on the continent if I had those resources.
The Zambian resources at local level, with what's available right now, if you look at the big teams, are we able to punch at that level?
We can, as you say, with better management. Because I'll give you a good example. Zesco, they have everything, and I would expect them this year to do better than the previous years, because every year the support is bigger and bigger for them. I mean, the cash they're injecting into the team, and if they manage well, this year they should win something. If they don't, then there's something wrong they're doing.
Not at local level, international level. Is that the standard?
Even at international level, what you've noticed now, the influx of bringing foreign players to beef up the teams, because most of these teams have gone outside market instead of your own grown home talent. So again, for me, I'm very much not for it, because I believe that if your Zambian players have to develop, it's the only way they develop is by playing at the highest level, which is the Premier League. So if you're not going to give our local players the chance to play, how are we going to expose them if you're going to keeping more and more foreign players? Because the foreign players that we're getting here, how can I put it? They're not grade A players. Most of them they're in their late 20s, some of them almost 30 years old. So what are you investing in? Nothing, because those players that you bring in, there's no resale value on them. So why take a chance of trying to win the Continental Cup or whatever, or what you call the Champions League, with a bunch of foreign players and a few Zambian players, when you could actually invest on those young players that you can develop and then win the championship with the more Zambian players in the team?
Tell me something. In 2008, Hanif Adams offered himself for the leadership of the Football Association of Zambia, president. What was your biggest motivator?
That particular year, I was approached by many clubs to stand. It wasn't my personal decision. It was not like something, I woke up one morning and say, let me stand for this. It was mostly to do with clubs asking me, no, why don't you come? Because we need somebody who can be there, who can do good administration and everything, because they saw my track record for the previous years, how I've managed to be there as a single sole sponsor of a club for all these years, and I've managed. So everybody was curious to say, no, why don't you take it at another level where you can manage at the national level? And that's what motivated me. I said, okay, everybody wants me to try, let me try. And I went for it.
What was your plan? At personal level, what was your conviction, and what did you really want to address by ascending to the presidency of FAST?
What I wanted to address was what the problems we had that time, as you say, running FAST is not just a national team, but also our local league and everything. How to invest in the league where the league becomes stronger, how to make the league, not just in football, even referees, how to develop the referees as well. I mean, the whole football arrangement has to be made into such a way whereby everything is working. One works for another, where in the end the benefits are not just for the football team, but even the nation as a whole, because it has to, work together with everything. So I believe that that was my intention anyway. I wanted to really change some of the way, this administration that was there before, okay, the new one, Kamanga, has changed a bit from what it was before. But if you remember a long time ago, it was just stagnant. People used to come in as presidents, or a new committee comes in, but nothing used to change. It was just a continuation of whatever the other person left behind. So I wanted to change things, even restructure the leagues, even start leagues in the provincial level, whereby, even at the school level, because in my days, when we were young, we had this league at school. We had Prince Philip, we had Kablonga, it was called Gilbert Rini, we had Libala, we had Munali. We had a league every Wednesday, a school league. We used to play under 17 and under 16. There were 2 leagues for schools. The football was so prominent those days. That's why you had all those international players those days. If you remember, Peter Mwango, late Stanley Piri, all those guys from Matero used to play for Lusaka Tigers. Mwango used to play for City of Lusaka. There was Luis Shambulo, Schoolboy International. There was good material those days from schools, because the school was so competitive as well. Just like I told you how I find all those good players at the University of Zambia. But all these things died because where it starts, where the administration starts, there's no structures, there's no development at this level or that level, and everything has faded away. The only thing we're depending on now is the so-called academies, where people have made small academies everywhere, where people are trying to now invest in football by bringing young players, and they say, oh, I've got a good player, and that's where we've come to now.
So you worked with Simata in that campaign?
Yes, that's right. Simata he also wanted to stand for a position, and he joined me.
He should have advised you that football is a highly volatile place where it attracts interests of anybody and everybody. Should have shared his time with you about his stint as first president, or didn't he?
He did. I knew what I was getting into, but as I said, when you get there, that's when you realize that there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics in football as well, and that's what I think a bit drew me back, because I said I didn't know that football at the national level, there's so much politics in it, and that's when.
And you had been involved at that point in football for more than 2 decades.
Yes.
But you didn't know
No, because you see, all those 2 decades I've been there, it was basically at club level. I was just minding my own business. And then when I decided to put my foot out of my zone and go to another level, I realized that it's not as what I thought. It's just too much politics in it. And that's what I think, after that experience I had, I decided, I think this is not the field I would like to take anyway.
Explain the campaign trail. What did you need to do? I heard people were chartering planes, going to campaign. It was an expensive campaign.
No. With me, it was mostly by road. We never went in the plane. No, I don't know where you got that. Mostly by one of those small mini buses where we all fit in, you and your campaign guys and everything. Mazabuka, Copperbelt, Kafui, all the main places where you could address people. But as I said, it was a good experience. I made a lot of friends, plus a lot of people who just had heard of me, had never seen me in person, and to see that what Hanif is really like, what he sounds like, and everything. And as I said, it was a good experience.
You actually believed you'd actually win when you went to address your campaign meeting?
When I went to address, yes, the support was there. In fact, plenty support. All the clubs that attended our meetings, they were, they were happy with me being the candidate and everything. And I had a major support in all the clubs wherever I went for the campaign trail when we were on it. But it's just that when the day of the elections, there was some, as I say, I don't like to talk about it, but there were some, underhand methods used where to sway the voters to vote for them and not for me. And it happened even on the day of the elections there was it at Mulungushi Hall, yeah? Yes. So when I noticed all this, and my people were in my
what underhand tactics were used?
Well,
just for the record,
people being bribed with money to vote for them. It was so evident. People are being taken around the blocks there behind and dishing out money to vote for the people they wanted to put in to put them in power. So, when you see, if you see these things, the only people you can talk to is the people who are close to you, and you say, "Oh, this is what's going on." So, we just called it. After that, I just said, "No, I think I shouldn't be wasting my time here. It's better." These people who seem to be desperate to have this position, they have a reason why.
How come? Were you a bit shocked coming out third in that election? Kalusha Wale won the presidency. Mulonga second. Worst case scenario, you came out third.
Yes.
But worst case scenario, what was your expectation?
Well,
if you were to lose,
if I were to lose, I wouldn't. It could have been third, but not. How can I put it?
With the margin.
With a small margin, yeah, but not the way the margins were, the way the votes were read out, the tallies.
So you lost that election on election day. Everything was fine until
the election days. Everything was fine. In fact,
wasn't it worth fighting? You say you lost to corruption.
Well, I could call it corruption. I could call it other ways of where you try and convince people that, oh, this guy, as I said earlier on to you, that people can even use the color of your skin to persuade other people not to vote for you because they say, oh, he's not a real Zambian, that kind. So, when I saw this kind of language being used, it really pissed me off because I said, are you seriously telling me that in 20th century, you look at the color of the skin to say that this guy is not Zambian because he's of this origin, but yet all your life you've been here, and and for me, I've been in football for this is my 40th year, and somebody can even try and degrade you to that level. So it really hurt me a lot. I said, I couldn't believe that in 20th century people use this kind of thing just to win somebody off you by using this method of saying that, no, this guy, you can't have a guy who's not a real Zambian. I don't know what a real Zambian means.
Or maybe you didn't have the strategic relationships that you had done so well with at Lusaka Dynamos to manage things for you to have the ambition to assume for the first presidency.
No, I think that time it was the right age for me to do it because I was much younger then, 1998. I was
2008, rather.
2008. I was much younger then than what I'm now. I was 11 years younger, and I had the energy to, I think, do well if I had if I'd been at the FUZ as the president there. I could have done a lot of what my ideas were. I could have implemented them, and I'm sure FUZ today would have been different if I had changed things there. But as I said, it's something that's bygone, and I don't like to talk about it because, as I said, it's something. It was an experience, and it's something I will remember because, as I said, it taught me a lot of lessons.
You continue to stay at Lusaka Dynamos, but new partnerships have come in. You're working with Bokani Soko now. Change.
Pardon?
It seemingly seems that Lusaka Dynamos is no longer the youth conveyor belt that it once was. It's now buying exotic talent. It's
But,
now trying to punch very high.
No, we have partnered, but I'm not really the gentleman you're talking about. No, he's not actually involved. We are just like, how can I put it? It's more like some kind of sponsorship we get. So basically, Lusaka Dynamos is still me, Mr. Kangwa, and a few sponsors here and there. That's what we are doing. But then, as I said, the idea of the sponsors is that we go into another phase where we compete with Sesco and Nkana and Power Dynamos to their level, so that if it means that we have to get foreign material to make the team strong, we have to do it. So that's why they came in as sponsors to build that base foundation to make the team stronger.
Why is Hanif Adams continuing in football? After many years, yeah, not a young man, the grey hair is upon you.
You know,
The wrinkles are coming slowly.
passion doesn't die. You know, passion always stays, and football is a passion. It's in the blood, and it's very hard to. It's become, what you say, part of your life, daily life, and it's very hard to like just stop and just watch people doing it on your behalf. It can't. It's something that, how do you say, you'll die with it.
Hanif Adams, thank you.
Thanks. Okay.